out your spirit, pour out your spirit.
Reviewing the outpouring for your refreshing and infilling.
Pour out your spirit, pour out your spirit, pour out your spirit on me.
Good afternoon, and my name is Rex Henry, and I'm sitting in for Sister Marva Berkeley, Minister Marva Berkeley. This is the Outpouring program. This is where we introduce people to the works of the Holy Spirit on the island of Tobago. And we are very happy to come and have a conversation with you today. Today we have a very special guest who is building on this series that we've been doing on men and the Father's Day program that's coming up. And we're talking about the partnership between Mobilization Tobago and the Men of Purpose organization. Just to give a little recap, we're coming live from the island of Tobago. For those of you who are going to see this in the future in another place, beautiful island of Tobago. Minister Marva Berkeley's program dedicating to the moves of the Holy Spirit on the island of Tobago. She's given some time for Mobilization Tobago, which is praying for revival in the Caribbean region. And God has gave us the fortunate connection with a part of another group of people who are on the island who are focused on healing the men of the island of Tobago. Now the Bible says in Malachi, I will turn the hearts of the fathers back unto the children, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. And our guest last week and week before has been talking about how this role that Mobilization Tobago is doing with Men of Purpose is part of God answering prayer to bring men in and to turn things around. I just want to remind you that if you're seeing this program here in the month of May on the island of Tobago, that we are working towards the Father's Day weekend. And on the Father's Day weekend, we're hoping to mobilize. We want to invite men to come. If you're involved in any kind of activity in the schools and things like that, Pastor Lord that was here last week was saying that the big goal is to stop boys from bleeding from the schools into the streets. And we're hoping that as we attempt to reach out to facilitators, mentors, pastors, leaders, youth presidents, anybody that has an interest in men and boys, that you will come and participate and partner up with us. And unfortunately, we don't have Brother Lord with us today, but he has sent a very able and competent co-laborer with him in that ministry. And he is going to engage us with some new, maybe some dimensions that Brother Lord is that he brings to this partnership that is part of Men of Purpose. So without further ado, let me introduce to you to Brother Owen Lord. You can call him Minister Owen Lord because he has a work that he does. Alfred, sorry, Owen Alfred. And I'm going to give him the opportunity to kind of introduce himself, and then depending on how he introduces himself, that we're going to take it from there to develop the discussion. All right? Brother Owen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Pastor Henry, for the opportunity to just share with our nation on the island my passion, my vision, and my alliance with the group that is called Men of Purpose, and now by extension, Mobilization Tobago. Deep within me is a real passion to see a change in this nation. And hence you found when Pastor Lord, who is the founder of the Men of Purpose group, back in 2017 would have communicated with me the vision the Lord gave him. Everything he was saying at the time truly resonated with me. And myself, him, and two other brothers formed part of the executive of Men of Purpose.
Good.
therein at that time, I realized his vision was reshaping the nation, one community at a time, one family at a time, one man at a time.
Okay.
And I could really truly relate to that because personally, each individual has a role to play in whether we have a safer or better community. So if you can impact one life, and that life can in turn impact his or her family, and that family by extension can impact his or her community, by extension you really would have that ripple effect of changing the nation.
Good.
And through much prayer, through much recess, there were certain things that we saw as key pillars in helping that. One would have been education. So you find that the intent of Men of Purpose also is to see how guys that have fallen through the cracks as a result of not having a good education, how could we partner with institutions or organizations that can aid in that? Equally likewise, we saw this situation where, of course, the financial situations of so many of our lives that are less privileged in our society. So we also identified that there is a need where as individuals and as businessmen and as men who God has touched our lives individually, we can now seek to find employment and support for guys that are falling through the crack.
All right, so before I want to interrupt him a little bit, and I want to drill down to another hat you carry, which is that you are part of individuals or people collectively in Trinidad and Tobago, but with specific responsibility for Tobago, that actually intervenes at the prison level. Tell us about what has been your experience or what's your involvement with people at the prison level, and what has been your experience attempting to intervene with some of our youths at the prison level?
Well, I want to make it known to the audience, even now from the outset, when it comes to prison ministry, it's at my core, it's at my soul and my heart.
Okay.
Because I have been intimately and personally exposed to it, being an ex-inmate.
Oh, okay.
And as such, I understand that there's a need to reach people, even in that situation,
Okay.
to stem the tide of reoffending.
Okay.
But life is so amazing. When God is calling you into a particular ministry, sometimes that ministry finds you.
Okay.
Sometimes you go looking for it, if the passion is within. But I want to say the ministry that is called Prison Fellowship Tobago, by extension Prison Fellowship Tobago, and by extension Prison Fellowship International, found me.
Okay.
And what do I mean by that? I was basically going about my own business, and I got a call from the then president for Prison Fellowship Tobago, and that's Brother John Young.
Okay.
And he indicated, of course, he's looking at passing the mantle on.
Yeah, he's
And from a number of quarters, my name came up as a likely person. For me, that was quite unusual. One, I had no previous history with the ministry.
right.
Most of the present and past leaders are pastoral capacities. So I remember when he approached me, I thought about it very prayerfully. But I didn't need to do so for very long, because within my soul, I had that desire to perhaps share some of my experiences as to how I became an overcomer of that aspect of my life, and to see other young men that find themselves within the system understand that there's life after prison. you don't need to return. You still have that ability to make a choice. And the choice you make will determine your actions, and the actions will determine where you are in life.
All right. Before we go any further, folks, I want to not misdirect our audience. One of the elements that we've been talking about in last week's program, and we hinted at it at the first program, was the relationship that family support can play in rebuilding our society. And our special speaker today does have some family support that he could fall back in. As a business person who is intervening in the society, because our series is about how God interrupts, even while we're talking about men and social transformation, we're also hinting to the idea that one of the ways in which we build a society is when our families and parents are in fact building something, a legacy they can pass on to the next generation. So our guests also inherited from that concept of a structured society with long-term planning, where the society, where the families, because we talked about how Men of Purpose is building one family at a time, one person at a time. And there has been a passing on to him, if you will, a baton for a family business, which is part of the stabilization and his social restoration and elevation, if you will. And so I wanna kind of pin into that, because we want to draw you as the audience into why it's so important for us to build family legacy, to give identity to the next generation. Because I think part of the reason why our young men are on the streets, fatherlessness, but a lack of identity. So let's have him continue what he was saying, and I wanted to just plug that in so that you understand a part of building himself as a person meant that there was something that the family had a vision that it was struggling towards. It may not have been perfect, it may not have been well developed, but it had something that he could now attach his desires to and build with, if you will. And so let's plug that in. So you're working with the prison ministry. God opens a door, somebody calls you. What happens then?
Just before I zero in on that, I think you're touching on an extremely critical point. Mm-hmm. Because when you speak about family support and having a good family structure, the structure cannot just be that financial support.
Right.
I want to say there have to be that conviction where even if you have a son or a daughter that is going astray, mm-hmm. you understand that Christ in his redemptive power can redeem anyone. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way that we as a people, as a family, would help persons that have fallen through the cracks.
Okay.
And I want to say that as one of the things my dear mother that has passed on, she never lost hope. She never lost belief. She never lost conviction in me. Mm-hmm. And it is that true hope and conviction and love as a parent that can now have me standing or sitting before you all today as a person now wanting to impart something to mm-hmm. someone else's life.
Excellent.
If she had given up, because sometimes some families do give up on their loved ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And for whatever reason, I'm pleading with you all, don't give up on your loved ones. Okay. And it's important also to keep praying, because I believe even to this day, some of the blessings that I am inheriting mm-hmm. is as a result of the steadfast prayer of a truly praying mother.
Good. Excellent.
So that for me is critical. So yes, there is that financial inheritance that I could have continued with and pressing with, but there was also that nurturing, that level of knowing, look, Owen, there's an opportunity to turn your life around.
Well, in that case, let's piggyback on it. Let's go back to what we were doing in terms of the partnership with Brother Lloyd. How do you bring those experiences? Because we identified that there are business people in the Tobago community who, national community, who see the problem of gangs emerging in our community. They see the problem of violence. They see the problem of crime generally across the board. they believe that something could be done, and they could throw some of their weight and resources behind this process of redeeming their society. They don't want to become a target. They don't want people in there, the boys on the street, to think, hey, that fella there have money, we're going to rob him. So they might not necessarily want to come in the front. But if there's a group of people and you actually have testimonies or actual experiences or people who have actually make the turn, they could see that as a pattern that they could put some resources in. How do you believe that, or what sort of structures or strategies that Men of Purpose is currently using to impact the young men that are currently on the streets? You have seen them coming out of the prison. You're a prison chaplain now. So you're a pastor for prison and pastor for people coming out of prison. You're a pastor for people on the streets. Even though we're not running down titles, that is kind of your function. So a function, whether you have a title or not, that's what you're doing. How do you, at this point, what are the strategies you guys are looking to employ with respect to impacting these men in the community? Because we have a lot of single mothers who are very interested in what you guys are doing.
Well, let us, for starters, for instance, using your social networking. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, let us suppose a young man has a particular skill or talent. Mm-hmm. He fell through the crack. What do we do as a group, as Men of Purpose? Whether it's a business place or a place of employment, we have certain institutions that we have partnered with, which we would act as liaison between the individual seeking employment. Mm-hmm. So you find then that person has somebody liaising and speaking on their behalf and trying to get them to get a job or trying to get them a startup help in a business. And there's where you find pastors that have been speaking about using our resources, the extent to which we can help these guys to, whether it's to start up some small business through partnering or probably getting employment. Mm-hmm. It would help them in one way from getting off the street. For instance, right now, I'm partnering with the prison in Tobago along with community development, where we're running the air conditioning electrical course. Materials were needed. I've spoken with a particular hardware who is supplying the material needed for the training in the installation and repairs of air conditioning units. So that's a course we're running. So sometimes it's not just about ministering the word when I go into prison. Mm-hmm. It's also about equipping them with skills and training necessary to empower them to help themselves beyond the walls. Mm-hmm. Likewise, in the case of Men of Purpose, so rather than leaving them, seeing that they already disenfranchised, allow them to even get into the prison walls, we are trying to meet them even at that point and say, you know what, there is hope, there is an opportunity for this. And I think key to this whole episode with Mobilization Tobago is the importance of fathering young men. Okay. So whether or not someone came out of your loins, that heart of a father for a young man or another person is critical for you to even work with that person, for you to even understand that there's a need to help.
I wanna pin down one of our team members or team leader with Mobilization Tobago pointed out that in her business there seemed to be a difficulty in getting people who have come to work to engage themselves in being trained on the job. There seemed to be a disconnect between the opportunities that you give them and their willingness to rise to the challenge of getting to the job. Now, I am making some assumptions here that I would think that probably those problems has to do with people coming to work on time, people demonstrating leadership skills so that you can look forward to promoting them, putting them in charge of stuff, that kind of thing. Have you been able to identify maybe emotional retardation, when I say emotional retardation, I'm not talking about somebody is mentally ill. I'm talking about whether or not there's some kind of emotional damage or blockages or things that often allow people to kind of sort of slide the wrong way, or that they go to the workplace and rather than see the opportunity you've provided for them, because last week we discussed the issue of giving money to somebody who could take it and go and pay off drugs and run away, disappear, that there's this dangerous element of creating opportunities that people do not always maximize. All right, so how do you manage this part of it, this emotional engagement part of it, trying to build trust, that kind of thing? What has been your experience?
Well, there are two things that you're touching on there. And one is our culture and work ethics. Mm-hmm. And that speaks to a wider problem within the society, mm-hmm. where I would say for the years that I have lived so far, I have seen a decline in work ethics.
Okay.
So that's at a community level. On the other hand, based on what you have asked me, we're dealing one-on-one at an individual level. You actually have to determine what you think is the source of that person's behavioral pattern.
Okay.
Is it that this person is now a part of a general work ethic? Then you can speak to that and address that. But if, as you may have intimated, that you determine that the situation runs slightly deeper, then you need to probably have intervention at a different level, which is counseling over a period of time. And also sharing testimonies. Testimony is important, where if you can have a testimony of someone that is where you are and seeing that they have moved from where you are now to a better place, then that helps to give that person hope and to give that person some level of vision and direction and to pursue purpose.
Are you saying that, when we were having a discussion with Pastor Lloyd, we were talking about a monthly meeting that needs to happen where some of our volunteers coming out to the Father's Day training program would meet monthly to talk about some of their challenges. I don't know if you're familiar with the AA program where people come out and think. Do you believe that if we had something like an AA, I used to be this, I've come out of that, I'm now doing better because I may have a challenge in this area and I need some help and that kind of thing. Do you believe something like that helps, or is it?
Most certainly, because also you'd find a pool mm-hmm. of persons with relevant situations that can draw and support each other. So you can draw from one and you can support likewise. And those organizations would definitely help. If we could put a structure like that in place, I would think so.
Okay, we're kind of running down to about 6 minutes, 5 minutes. As we look towards the Father's Day program, what would you like to see in terms of the mindset of people coming to this 3 days retreat afternoon engagement, and what would you hope that they take away from the experience? Because you're a chaplain, you go into prisons, you minister to people at the who are at the turnaround section. Part of our goal is to not get the boys into prison. We've got to find a way to stop them from getting in, not prison, streets. We don't want to get them into drugs. We don't want to get them into gangs. We want to get them thinking, what do you want some of the people who are coming who would like to be part of a process of helping young men think critically? What would you want them to be thinking coming into this weekend?
Well, anything that you're venturing into, you need to have hope. Mm-hmm. And I believe there is hope because mm-hmm. I am a testimony that with the right structure, with the right belief, there is hope mm-hmm. and there can be change. Mm-hmm. So I would like people to trust the process because personally I think there's a need even at that program to speak to the issue of fathering.
Okay.
And understand it from two perspectives. From the perspective of fatherhood and from this perspective of childhood. Because sometimes if you don't have the right balance between childhood and fatherhood, then the role of fathering becomes blurred.
Okay.
And for me, the greatest fathering we could have had is the fathering of God. So there is that need to use His word and mesh the word with our lives and with our experience to understand, well, look, God fathered me. I can now father someone that doesn't come from my loins.
Okay.
And I just think that that's critical without giving anything away.
Right. Well, I don't think we're giving away. We may not be able to compact into the weekend all the things we want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So it might be good to have a little preliminary session, essentially, in the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to let you know that there are Tobagonians generally praying, a lot of single mothers, a lot of married mothers who are out there praying that maybe we can help this men's organization train other men to expand and become a much larger organization. Hopefully, in this Tobago context, from Charlottesville to Crown Point, we'll be able to get more men to sign up to be mentors, leaders in their community, in their schools, in their churches, in their neighborhoods. And they're ready to impart what they have learned, what they've gathered. And I'm going to give them a couple of minutes to close off. But we are the Outpouring program, and we are also committed to a better Tobago. And Minister Marva Berkeley is very much interceding, I think, for us as a Tobago community to get that movement done. I just want to give, in this case, our chaplain, Owen Alfred, any closing remarks in the last minute we have.
I just want to say to the young men out there, there's a bunch of people that truly believe in you, dare to believe in yourself. We are here reaching out our hands to you. Hold our hands and trust the process, because we are committed to seeing change, and with that commitment, we stand.
Thank you, Chaplain Owen Alfred, and thank you, partners and friends. Remember to support our stations, because it's part of the transformation of Tobago. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you again soon.
Pour out your spirit, pour out your spirit.
Reviewing the outpouring for your refreshing and infilling.
Pour out your spirit, pour out your spirit, pour